Hello, hello. What a crowd. This is exciting. Hi, everyone. My name's Brittany, here with our founder at Coach Training EDU, John Williams. There's John, making some tea, I think. Well, we are so excited to be talking with you all about the state of the coaching industry in 2025. It looks like we are going to have a very robust crowd, over 100 people signed up. So thrilled to be starting off the new year with this conversation with you all. But just to give everyone a chance, because I'm sure there will be people trickling in a couple minutes late, I thought we just would start off with sharing some gratitude moments. What is something you are really grateful for or even excited about for 2025? Feel free to drop it in the chat, and even if one or two people want to come off mute and share if you've got anything you're particularly grateful for today, we'd love to hear. John, what are you grateful for as we start 2025?
I mean, in this call, I've always had this goal of getting at least 50 people on the same call at the same time. And I feel like we have a chance to do that today. We're at 30 some right now. I mean, yeah, this is amazing. It just feels like it feels like things are just rolling. Like this is the first year where I don't have like a dire project that needs to get done in order for things to be okay. It feels like the projects I'm playing with now are, I don't know, they're just growth oriented as opposed to, having to fix a hole kind of thing.
Love it.
Darlene, I haven't seen you in ages. How are you?
I'm good. Good to see you all. Yay.
You, you
Other
too.
friends out there as well. I have to drop in from time to time, see what's
Yeah,
happening, right?
yeah, you do.
Amazing. Love hearing people in the chat.
Oh,
The
we're
weather
at
is
43. We're gonna get there. I think we're gonna get to 50. What's
gonna accomplish a lifelong goal here today, John.
Seriously, we had 100 some show up, and like the rule of thirds, right? About a third of the people actually make it. So I was thinking, oh, there's at least a chance.
There's a chance.
43. All right, we're getting there. We'll get there. We'll get there.
Love we invited, for those of you just joining, invited you to share what is something you're grateful for or excited about in 2025. Feel free to drop it in the chat. Lots of people saying coaching and the weather, snow,
There
rain,
we go.
different weather, sunny in Chicago.
What about you, Brittany?
I am grateful. I'm gonna say this webinar too. Like we had this idea like 3 months ago, and it's fun to see it come to life. And it's really just I'm grateful to be here having this conversation with you, John.
Yeah,
There's
me
a
too.
there's a lot of good stuff that we're gonna get into.
Yeah. And I just want to throw out there too, a lot of good stuff happening at Coach Training EDU is directly because Brittany is involved on a very hands-on basis with a lot of this stuff. So even including this webinar, all Brittany, 100%. Just want to gently roll that out there.
Thank you, John. Appreciate that. All right. Well, we've given it a few minutes. We're so excited to be here with you all. I'm going to officially kick us off and welcome you all to the 2025 State of the Coaching Industry. Going to give you just a really quick overview of what we are looking forward to talking about today. We're going to get into this, try and manage our time well, see how much ground we can cover, but there is a lot of exciting stuff happening in the coaching world. So we're going to talk, after I introduce our organization and John, we're going to talk about evolving client needs. Like what are people looking for in coaches, and especially what are some specialized industry trends that are happening? The overall professionalization of the field, everything from the growth of credentialed coaches to new organizations leading the way in getting coaching covered by insurance to legislation and regulation that's on the horizon. We're going to talk about what that looks like. Probably something you all are thinking about. What are we going to do with AI? What is happening in the AI world? what is the impact it might have on coaching. And then we will try and get to a few quick thoughts on what does it look like to take all of this information to market yourself as a coach in 2025. So this is where we are headed today. Please feel free to drop questions in the chat or comment as we go. John's going to be doing a lot of the talking, and I'll do my best to monitor the chat. But just before I hand it over to John, do you want to take a brief moment? Again, my name is Brittany Macdonald. I'm the Vice President of Enrollment here at Coach Training EDU and a Master Certified Coach for the last 7 years. I've been coaching for 15 years, and I am just honored and thrilled to be here speaking with you all about this topic today. As we think about the evolution of coaching, John, and we are thinking about where we are today, maybe you can actually take us back for just a moment, share a little bit about yourself. How did you get into the coaching space and start this organization? And how have you seen the coaching landscape change over time?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, thanks, Brady. I got into coaching back in 2002. So like very, very early in the stages of it. I was in my very first exposure to it was as a practice client. I always took a weekend program. I was a guinea pig on a Saturday, and even in my early 20s, I thought this is something that's amazing. Like, why did it even take this long for me to have this conversation? And at that point, I got in as a practice client. I was, more sessions, things like that, and then I started taking the training myself a couple years later, and then realized this is like this empowerment basis of working with people is absolutely 100% going to change the world. Like, especially education. I was teaching Latin at the time, and I thought these kind of skills and concepts, if you're working with them with students, it just helps them navigate that inner landscape in ways that there is no other platform to do it. And I was in the right spot at the right time. Frank Phillips was the head of the school, and he was a former Latin teacher. We had the same alma mater. It was the ideal situation. I was completely supported. And he said two things. One, as long as you're teaching Latin, you can do whatever else you want with coaching. And so I had this laboratory at my fingertips. And two, uh, there's this idea that in the field of education, young people don't have a way to work one-on-one with anyone unless there's something wrong. And what coaching, or unless they're involved in some athletic pursuit. And what coaching represents is this wide open space, this huge gap in education where young people can work one-on-one in a positive way, as if they were an athlete in their own life, and use a lot of what's happening in sports psychology to move forward. That opened up that just opened up the field for me. And then I got involved in a leadership program, and then worked as an executive coach. And that's when my eyes really got open to how much innovation is happening in the coaching field from in the executive world, because that's where there's just a lot of money. There's a lot of innovation there's happening. And I viewed my job as staying on the cutting edge of what's happening in the executive fields and then translating that for the academic world. And that's what I did. I mean, for 5 years, studied that, looked at it. And then at that point in time, I got asked to train people, and I mean, it grew, or bootstrapped, organic from hopes and dreams to this. And I think we did get to 50. We got to 50.
We're at 51.
Wow, that is cool. This is very cool. But it feels somewhat dreamy. I have to admit, like, starting out with, we had no money. We were living on hopes and dreams. We were month to month for years. It just was we had a 1-year-old, and it just was this whole, I believed in the power of coaching first from the impact it had on me as a client. And then whenever there was spaces of doubt where I was like, oh, is this going to work? How can you market this thing? Is this thing even going to go? I knew the impact it had on me, and that I wanted that for the students I was working with. And that truly was a driving factor for about a decade. And then I realized, oh, this is larger than just education. Coaching is going to have an impact on even how people communicate in the executive world, how they communicate around their healthcare, how they communicate around their relationships in their lives. Yeah, I think that this coaching to me represents a fundamental shift in our culture's awareness of the possibility of how humans can connect with each other. And that's really where I'm landing. And as I get further into it, I believe in that space even more than I did 20 years ago.
Thanks for that, John. You've been at this longer than I have, but I have been in the coaching industry for 15 years. And when I started, if you told someone you were a coach, they asked what sport. And then even, 5, 6, 7 years ago, as life coaching and leadership coaching was becoming more and more common, if you said you were a life coach, though, people would still kind of chuckle at you and be like, what does that really mean? Right. And now we're entering this space where the coaching industry is absolutely exploding. It's taking off. There are more demands for coaches. There are more opportunities in terms of client needs and specialized industries. So we were looking at some charts yesterday. It was fun. I'm curious if you want to talk about how have you seen the demand for the type of coaching shift over the last several years?
Yeah, I mean, when I started, coaching was, it just wasn't on the radar. People looked at you like you had three eyes. Like, what even is that? So I had to learn how to market coaching at a time when coaching wasn't, just the awareness of it was low. What I've found is that when we're marketing coaching, it's such a different kind of activity from actual coaching itself, right? When you're coaching, you are coaching the client, not the problem. When you're marketing, you are marketing the problem. And so when you're looking at, and I had to figure that out, it was sink or swim, in the sense of I had no plan B. It was, coaching all the way. And it took about 2 years while I was still, teaching and then part-time coaching. And then when I made the leap to go full-time into coaching. And what I realized is that if you're selling something invisible, which coaching is invisible, the more you're able to identify your ideal client and do your ideal client profiling, go find the clients you want to work with and ask them the question. And the key question is, if you what is the problem or what is the challenge that you're dealing with that is so compelling that you would find a coach to solve? That is the key question. If you have that question written down, that's what it did for me, even in the early 2000s. What we're seeing now is there's just more awareness. If you're looking at a marketing trend, the top of the funnel might be, people are unaware that they even have a problem. And then this is where marketing will say, hey, like coaching, you have not yet had a coaching session. Oh my goodness, you're completely missing out, right? Like that's top of the funnel stuff. You get to middle of the funnel stuff, people are aware they have a problem, but then they're now looking for who can solve my problem, right? Oh, you're living an uncoached life. Oh, you poor soul. Like let us solve that immediately. Now you're in the middle of the funnel. The bottom of the funnel is, oh, I am actively looking. I realize I have a problem. I know how to solve the solution. Now I'm actively looking for the exact practitioner to solve this. Who am I going to go with? Coaching now has evolved. We're no longer at the top of the funnel. We're now more towards the middle to the bottom of the funnel as a society. And so when you're asking yourself the question, okay, who do I go with? What we're seeing is an increased specialization in the coaching world. It's been especially accelerated when there's this massive movement from the pandemic where people were not as comfortable meeting on Zoom. Now Zoom becomes almost it's just what we do. It might even be the first option in a lot of different places. It doesn't mean in person is going away. In person is still important. It'll always be important. But what we're seeing of an industry trend because of Zoom, because you're now able to say, look, I can coach a client anywhere. The increased specialization is becoming a huge advantage because you can meet with clients literally all over the planet. So I think that the industry really has grown up from this top of the funnel unawareness of not even aware that people have an uncoached life problem to, all right, now I understand where I'm at in terms of I really need to get a coach. Which coach am I going to go for? I'm going to go for a coach that specifically matches the exact life situation that I feel like I'm dealing with. It's just best practice from a coaching marketing standpoint. And I think the industry has evolved to that. We've evolved now to the space for that. I think that is the most robust strategy.
specialization and finding your ideal client niche.
Yep.
So with that, I'm going to throw up these slides. I want you to just talk us through it, John, because we were talking, what are the trends? What is happening in the coaching space? And tell us what we're looking at here in terms of life coaching over time.
Right. So these are fun little games, right? You go to Google Ngrams, and the idea here is these are the mentions of the term life coaching in all of Google books. So Google does a search, indexes different words. It does what computers do really fast. So I got involved in coaching, me personally, right around, we'll say there, right? That's where I got involved. And then, so I'm building from here to here. And then now, launch training program right around there. And then here we are, right? And so the idea here is like, it's somewhat plateauing. Like, the awareness of life coaching has reached somewhat of a plateau, which is a good thing. This means that, okay, like like there is awareness. We're no longer in this, constantly growing in the terms of the awareness stage of life coaching. What this means then, let's go to the next slide, Brittany, is that we have now increased, specializations of coaching, now leadership coaching, wellness coaching, things like this. Like there's just, mental health over time. Like, the whole idea is that now all of these terms are just getting picked up. And the trend of coaching is, I mean, you just I mean, this is where we're at right now. I mean, all of this stuff is just literally skyrocketed. And it's somewhat now plateauing. And even what this shows is there's just a maturation of the market. People know what this is about. At this point in time, the next evolution of any field is increased specialization. And it's from a marketing standpoint, it's even easier to market this because when you're focused on one specific target audience, you can really hone in your marketing messages to really deal with the challenges that target audience is dealing with. And when you're looking at that, it opens up a lot of opportunities to partner with the people who have, who also work with your exact same target audience. And so the networking opportunities are rich. The awareness of what you do is rich. Like I think it's so much easier now to market coaching than it was maybe, especially 20 years ago.
Yeah. And I wasn't sure what order we wanted to go in. I wanted to get to this slide, but let me go back a minute. Because these two are really interesting to me. So as leadership coaching, that's probably where the coaching industry started, right? Back in the 90s, coaching executives, coaching C-suite leaders. This is where we really started. We could see that's starting to actually decline a little bit. And then this was really interesting as we look at the growth of mental health mentions over time. Feels like it directly correlates with, we pulled wellness coaching as a term. But then even if we skip ahead to this one, you can see as life coaching, leadership, business coaching are all starting to plateau or even dip a little bit. Health and wellness coaching are both taking off. And these are two separate terms that mean a lot of the same thing. So we can imagine if these two lines were combined, we'd be seeing it more up here in this space. And that's really exciting to see.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Well, in terms of like trends over the last 5-year segments, I felt like the 2000s were very much coaching is just so new. Like it's just felt like it's this Wild West. Like, what is this about? What does it mean? And then you get into the teens, and then there's an increased specialization happening. I felt it a lot. And recently, in the last 3 years, it feels like health and wellness coaching and the awareness of mental health has completely skyrocketed. And now, even in the executive space, the emphasis on health and wellness in the executive space is higher than I've ever seen. And I think that just will continue to go. We're also seeing a trend where a lot of the coaches we're training are getting positions working in hospitals and in healthcare itself. A lot of this is driven by the NBHWC, the National Board of Health and Wellness Coaching. I know, Brittany, like you want to talk about that and where that is.
Yeah.
But I think to me, it's the mental health piece, because now if you're looking at, marketing funnels, there's an awareness of, mental health is now a thing that, like this is an awareness piece. People now know mental health is an issue that needs to be addressed. And then you go to now we're almost in the middle of the funnel in terms of mental health. You know where it's going to go, right? Like that's what happens. Simone Biles, when she, was it two Olympics ago now, when she brought that up, and there was a thing that was a thing. Like, oh my goodness, the GOAT is stepping down for a mental health reason, and then 4 years later, it looks like her courage to do that and just awareness that that brought to athletes in general was a harbinger for what was to come, where society now has the awareness of following what's happening with it. uh, it's all over. I mean, in university, advisors too, like you see with the young people, like there's no longer the stigma of working with a therapist, working in mental health. It becomes almost uh, a signal that you really care about your life.
And I think that is definitely the direction that the coaching industry is moving, health and wellness. I'm going to look at some statistics here in just a minute. But Jantel had a great question. What about relationship coaching? Jantel, when we were doing the research, there's not currently a whole lot of split between relationship coaching and life coaching. So relationship coaching tends to get put into the life coaching bucket. So we're looking at trends around life coaching. But what's interesting to me is, again, when we're thinking about health and wellness coaching, especially if you're aware of the NBHWC, that's the National Board for Health and Wellness Coaching, they center a lot around the 6 dimensions of wellness. And one of those is social and relationships. And so even thinking about relationship coaching in the context of overall wellness, overall health, I forget, I don't know if we were talking about this, but there was something that I came across recently where they're saying that to help like people prolong their life in later years and to avoid even like Alzheimer's or dementia, or to help with that, they say people need to actively seek out 2 close friends. And what's fascinating is that, first of all, you only need 2. 2 makes a difference. And then what's also fascinating and a little sad is that people are going through life not even having as many as 2 close relationships, or getting to the end stage of life without that. So I'm just going to say, I think relationship coaching is crucial, and we'll probably start seeing a lot more research about that as we start thinking about it holistically in a mental health and wellness context. Well, I'm going to share some of my favorite things, which are the numbers, coaching industry by the numbers. And I get a little bit nerdy here, but there are some really exciting numbers happening. So I just wanted to throw this up. I will also acknowledge, like, you can put some search terms into Google and start looking at studies, and there are a lot of numbers out there. I did my best to come up with the ones that felt like reasonable or middle of the road. I didn't pick the highest number ones, and I do have resources or references here because these did come from some pretty reputable research, like market research and research organizations. But life coaching, these are 2024 numbers. So as we come into 2025, life coaching, depending on how you count the numbers, was anywhere between 2.1 and a $4.5 billion industry worldwide. Business coaching, which includes a lot of leadership and executive coaching, $11.7 billion worldwide. And health and wellness coaching came really from behind, because even like 3 years ago, it was less than business coaching. And last year was a $17.46 billion industry. This is absolutely blowing my mind, because even a lot of the organizations leading the way in coaching, I think, are still thinking about coaching as life coaching, or they're thinking about it as executive or leadership coaching. But the reality is health and wellness coaching is where things are absolutely exploding. There are projections over the next 10 years that life coaching is going to probably double over this larger number. So we'll probably be looking at about around $10 billion in the life coaching industry. The business and leadership coaching projections are looking fairly stable. Like they might go up a little bit, but they're not going to be doubling or tripling. But here's where I'm really excited. Again, health and wellness coaching. This is showing growth from 2023 to 2024. But then this organization did a lot of research, and the projections are that we're looking to double the health and wellness coaching space in the next 10 years. So from last year, 17.46, we know that number. That was a real number last year. Projections for 2034 are at $33.09 billion worldwide. And again, for me, when I think about health coaching, it's not just, am I a health coach? Am I a wellness coach? It's really starting to understand and view people from a whole person perspective. It's saying we're all whole people. Nobody's going to show up in life, to parenting, to their work, to their career in isolation. We need to be thinking about how are we able to coach the whole person? How are we able to coach them on relationships, on their mental health, on stress management, on their occupation, on their spiritual journey? Like, how are we coaching people holistically? And I think that's probably why this is growing so much. John, what are your thoughts?
Absolutely right on. I think this is spot on. I mean, this is what I'm hearing from even the people I'm connected with in the executive world. Really high-powered executive coaches. Thinking of some of my dearest friends, and they're telling me, like, yeah, it's all about uh, mental health. The Even in the executive space, in the academic space, it's all about mental health. If you're talking to students, college students, it's about mental health. We're in a household with two teenage daughters. They're even aware of mental health and the idea of their friends, and they're talking about it openly. It's amazing to see a lot of the insights around growth mindset, sports psychology, the idea of focus, the idea of green flags, red flags, all of the sort of the lay psychoanalysis therapy language work its way into lay understanding with young people. Their awareness of certain topics is extreme just simply because they have Google. They have ways to search what they need to search for if they want to get it. So we're dealing with people now, people who have grown up with with technology. Knowledge is at their fingertips. Knowledge is ubiquitous. It is fast. It is fairly reliable. And now young people are recognizing this. There is now a priority to those relationships, and the awareness and vocabulary that they have is exquisite. And it's lovely to see younger generations understand the value of this. And I think that's just going to continue. I mean, I have a lot of hope. It gives me a lot of optimism for where we're going as a society, and also a lot of hope and optimism, understanding that corporations are they're leaning into coaching, and all that is that I get. There's no trend that says coaching is on the coaching is going down. There's nothing that direction. It's only increasing, and the pandemic, COVID, it's pushed it. I think it's just pressed accelerator button on all of these things.
Absolutely. So I love talking about the industry trends. What are the industries that are growing the most? Jessica had a great question. Is health and wellness, including like the entire health and wellness industry? Jessica, this is just health and wellness coaching. Now, I can send the links when we send out the recording and stuff if y'all want to dig in and look more at how they break down what coaching is. But we're not talking about health and wellness as an industry. I don't think it's talking about personal trainers or fitness professionals exclusively. In this, they're really looking at the coaching side of this. So it's really exciting to see. But John, to your point, we might jump ahead. We do want to talk about the professionalization of the field, but I think what you just said about knowledge at our fingertips, I feel like we just got to talk about AI. So
Right.
can we jump ahead, talk about AI in the coaching space? There's the knowledge piece that we all have incredible access to at our fingertips now. And there's coaching. Some of us hear AI and we get excited. Some of us get scared or nervous. What does this mean for the coaching world? What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I think when you're looking at something like AI as a new technology, I think the possibilities of it are very, very exciting. The I think what it represents is a way for computers to do the kind of work that was. I mean, it's unfathomable what can happen now with AI. Uh, the academia is wrestling with it, what to do with it. Uh, the executive world is also wrestling with it, what to do with it. I mean, this is the big topic that shows up in all these spaces. From a coaching standpoint, I do not think that AI is going to be able to replace humans as coaches. It's just there's too much subtlety. There's not. understanding where emotion is at, where this could go. I do, however, think that AI can be an amazing tool to augment what humans can do in the coaching world. And I think, we're actively looking at different ways that we can even do it I know I'm jumping ahead slightly, but in the last, 2.5 years, I've been developing an app called Coach Theory, where it's a coach client matching app. And we're not going to integrate AI in the sense of AI is going to offer coaching. However, we are going to implement AI in the sense of helping coaches when you are coaching for AI to give you suggestions on what you can do as a coach better, or hey, here are different questions to consider, things like that, as a tool, as an aid to help you become a better coach. Absolutely 100%. If it's there, it's going to be used. If it's useful, people are going to figure out how to do it. It's not a question of if, it's just a question of when. Similar to coaching, coaching works. It's not a question of if coaching is going to have this big impact on society. It already is happening. It's just a matter of who, when, how, and, to what timelines are we talking about? Uh, and it is a thing. I mean, there's a lot of ethical concerns with it too. Uh, but I mean, it's here. It's not going away, and it's only getting better by the day. So it is something that we as an industry have to square with. I am not at all worried about AI replacing human beings as coaches. That is not even on my worry radar. Uh, Coaching, I think, is one of the professions that is the least threatened by AI. I just was looking at a couple spreadsheets yesterday and was using AI to come up with formulas for the spreadsheets. And I was thinking to myself, this would have taken me like talking to, a CFO or someone, in that sense, like within minutes, I'm building this beautiful thing that is unreal, uh, that it does really well. Understanding human emotion, being able to listen, no, like that's heart connection. And I have a lot of ideas around um, I've been doing a lot of research too. So like if we're talking like state of coach training EDU, I had just finished, Coach Theory, the coach client matching app is, the minimum viable product is ready to roll. The marketing website, Coach Training EDU, there's still some cleanup. We got to do it. It's also ready to roll. Brittany holding down the back end of running the organization and doing a lot of that is also ready to roll. Like, so where I am at as a human is really diving into the research and looking at, okay, so what is really what is really at play here? That experience when you're working with a client and you feel like you're listening with your whole body? If you ever had that experience where, you're really listening level 2, there's some studies that are accurately measuring empathy on a visceral level, like where they have people watching different videos of people doing athletic events, and then they can measure how we as humans have a same body. We have that same image, theory of mind happening. It's really theory of body happening in our own bodies. That is something that I do not think AI can replicate. Then this idea of when you're really truly listening to another person and you have that body feeling, I know the other person on the other end feels that. It's impossible to replicate that. And this is I think is the premium. And this is where I feel like people, when you're in that coaching space, there is such a societal yearning to be listened to in the way that coaches listen to people. Full stop. And I think that's just going to continue. That trend is just going to increase. And if we're talking funnel, the more people feel that, the more middle of the funnel, bottom of the funnel, there's just more people going to be in those spaces. Marketing coaching in 2025 is easier than it has ever been, from my experience, because the environment is so rich with both tools that help you be more effective and efficient and awareness of what coaching can and cannot do.
John, I think this underscores what we do at a very deep level as coaches, even more so because I can talk to ChatGPT on my phone to strategize my day and like put together a schedule and work on systems. Like AI thrives on systems and data. What I'm not going to get in a conversation with ChatGPT is how is my soul? And what are the internal things I need to integrate about my life that I need to be able to then be successful and put those systems in place? So the World Economic Forum puts out like top skills necessary to succeed in the workplace. And they're saying that for 2025, not surprisingly, it's a lot of things that as of right now, AI and computers cannot do. Like the top skills necessary to succeed in the workplace, according to the World Economic Forum, include creativity, originality, leadership and social influence, resilience and stress management, active learning and analytical thinking. Like these are things that we can't go to computers for. And I think actually when you talk about that funnel, I think the more we rely on technology for the things that technology can do well, it's going to probably force a lot of us to say, all right, now I need a human for these other things. Now I need to find that person in my corner to help me figure out the parts that the computer isn't helping me with. How am I going to integrate these things in my life, both the logistical systems technology piece, but then also just as a human?
Mhm.
Yeah. I see Darlene has her hand up. Would love to hear your question, Darlene, or thoughts.
Curious about your thoughts on having an AI companion in a coaching session or recording a coaching session.
Yeah, I think it's what's going to happen. And I think that there are opportunities for a lot of insights. What I see AI does really well is it offers prompts in an excellent first draft. It's a way to make sure that you're hitting a lot of the points you want to hit. And in coaching sessions, the ability to summarize it, give it to clients,
I think
is just so
so.
powerful. Yeah. I think that trend is going to continue. In real time session, I don't even know. Like that feels to me, I have not yet explored that myself. Um, I've thought about it. The coach theory, the coach client matching app, we have to record the sessions for safety. Like it is a requirement, mostly from a legal standpoint, just to make sure everything is safe. And if we need to go back, we can go back and deal with it. There is some. We're also involved with looking at different studies with Penn State and Slippery Rock University, looking at the impact of coaching on students. And there is such a fascinating discussion on, okay, to what degree can we involve AI in helping us get assessments of coaching sessions and figuring out why these coaching sessions are working and why they're not. Uh, it is endlessly fascinating to me. And I think in the next, like, let's say we do this again next year, we will have very strong, okay, this is how you can integrate AI into coaching sessions. I think it's just the state of the industry right now. It's just so new. And we're trying to figure out how to do that in ways that does protect privacy, ways that does, help clients, feel supported and not feel like, oh, I'm just getting robotic answers, or this feels off, or it feels weird. I feel like coaching at its best, when you're operating at the highest levels, coaching feels like poetry. Like it is almost as much about what you don't say as what you do say. And I think the concern with AI is you're in a space, you're in it, you're as a client, you're 100% in, and then you get something that just feels a little off, or it feels AI-ish, and you're like, oh, why? I feel like it could break that magical space of really doing that deep work with, wait, what? Like, what are we really doing here? So that's where I feel like that balance point from using AI real time in coaching sessions, if it's going through a human, filtered through a human, yeah, I think probably yes, best practice works. If it's, but I think the real benefit of AI is in what happens after the session. So that post analysis of what's happening, not happening. I mean, one of my kids went to the dentist, and then the AI looked at the X-rays, right? It wasn't even the dentist is like, hey, this is what I see, but the AI said these things. It's even more accurate than the dentist was in some ways. So I think that's what's going to happen in coaching sessions too.
Well, and I'm so glad we're having the conversation, because it really does seem more about how, not if. I know that I was one of those coaches at first. I was like, no, AI can't be a part of coaching, and realizing like it's here to stay. But we need to be having the conversations around how do we use it ethically? How do we use it in a way that still deepens and supports the coaching process, not getting in the way of it? So these are really, really good questions. I did see, Serenity, you had your hand up a minute ago. Do you still want to hop in with your question?
Sure. I've actually been able to successfully see AI integrated into coaching, small little points of it. And I've seen AI evolutionize to where they're having more expanded resources. So I've seen AI taking notes. I've seen AI converting videos into written formatting. I've also seen AI to where they're integrating it in a webinar standpoint. I don't know if it's live yet and like live videos like this, but where they're actually integrating into commenting or even engagement and interactions as far as in the comments. So I've gotten to see slow little pieces of evolution of it. I would say though, again, it's still not replacing the human to human factor that you guys are both talking about, but it's more so, again, a tool and an accessory to allow people to increase that engagement or to convert or again, turn it into data in some different form, like from video to written or, you know, even graphs of like, oh, this is how much engagement had happened or like, oh, this is how many people had, you know, attended, here's your goal outline. So that's what I've seen so far, but it's just, again, like small little baby steps into that direction. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah. When I think about things like even coaching, right? But like back in the day, in the mid 2000s when it was new, the awareness wasn't there. I would often think, are the fundamentals of the situation correct? Are the fundamentals correct? Coaching works. It's going to be adopted by society. It's happened, right? In a coaching session, coaching at its best, coaches will all like 100% of your mental, emotional energy is focused on your client. That's what makes this thing magic. And I don't see the fundamentals of AI into that space working. I think you're now listening both to your client and then to other prompts or something else happening. Just the fundamentals of that interaction, it doesn't make sense in real time. However, post time, oh my goodness, the possibilities of AI going back and listening to a session and then giving clients, hey, I listened to the session. Here are 10 other questions that you might want to consider in your week. Or, hey, I listened to this session. Here are the notes that I got from the session. Here are the key points and takeaways. How else can you be supported through this next week? Can I give you prompts like 2 days from now, 3 days from now? Like, I think everything around coaching is going to be something that I think is going to be heavily augmented. But the coaching session itself in real time, I just don't see it. I mean, for me, it just wouldn't be useful. It'd be more of a distraction than anything else. And I think when coaches, when they get trained, when you're really up in, when you are in that space, I mean, you just don't need it. You just don't need it. You're doing the deepest work you can. You're connecting on a heart to heart level. A mental emotional space is there. Yeah. So I feel pretty solid on that. You know what I mean? Like I would, I would dig in on that one.
I think that's a really good reflection if I could share. Like I genuinely understand and agree with that. I would say though a lot of coaches will end up taking notes or like end up making like certain bullet points on the side. And I would say that's the only thing that like kind of segregates, right? And the only thing that can kind of like disconnect for a moment. So maybe even like a replacement in that regard of like what were the highlights or like what were some like key points that you felt were really valuable. But even then it's like it's still what do we feel is valuable, not what does AI like generate on some kind of data point that they like are highlighting, right? So there's still not going to be that full connection even in that regard. So I would say that's the only segregating point beyond that, but I completely agree with you. Thank you for sharing that perspective.
Yeah, I agree too. Like the idea that the AI can take notes and like do that in real time is a valuable tool. It really is. Yeah, John.
Let's do, yeah, one more question and then we'll want to make sure we get to the rest of our content, but go for it, John.
Yeah, no, just adding on to Serenity's point, I've seen it AI work in that they've like you've gone recorded a whole kind of session and then it's afterwards, which has been really cool. Like it then goes through and then assesses it based on ICF core competencies, and then you kind of review, you talk about where voice is between the client and the coach and all of those dynamics. That was really cool and helpful in some debriefing and seeing trends of yourself that you didn't see before. But that would be interesting. I've never seen it like in session done at the same time, because to me that would be hugely distracting. And like you said, John, it's that presence, right? Maintaining that presence. that'd be I know it'd be hard. It'd be a distraction for me, but because we want to be fully present. But it's powerful discussion. So thanks for providing the space.
Yeah, I mean, I think in real time, the only use I could see of it is what Serenity's speaking to is taking notes. Like, like having notes, bullet points, like taking pressure off of the coach in real time. I also have a lot of interesting ideas around the value of taking notes or not taking notes in coaching sessions. I feel like we could fill a whole hour with just that alone, that discussion. Uh, but this is AI at its best. Is it's taking something that is somewhat laborious to do, like review a whole coaching session, parse it out, take notes, give your client support between coaching sessions. That's amazing. And that is happening. That will happen. That trend is only going to increase happening. But in real time life coaching sessions, I just don't see the fundamentals being correct. It's just not the correct use of any distraction, let alone one that's trying to prompt you to ask certain questions. I mean, I don't know. They're just making me mad. I don't know. I just be like, get out, like, what? Get out of here. You don't need that. Like, yeah. Those are my thoughts on it.
We had a really interesting conversation adjacent to this in a class this morning, John, and I like you going back to the fundamentals. And I think the fundamentals of active listening, client to coach connection, like that human interaction are so profound. And something that came up is sometimes as humans, as coaches, we go through things where I actually could see relying on AI in a session. Personally, I had a concussion last year, and I don't normally take notes in sessions anymore. I've been doing this for 15 years. I find myself very present in the moment, able to like go back to, okay, 5 minutes ago they said this, but I'm present in the moment. I lost it for about 9 months. I had to write down things like just to be able to even remember what they were saying. And so I could also see like it being, again, that support for some of us as we go through different seasons or different challenges and are still wanting to show up as the best resource for our clients. I could have seen maybe on a separate screen, had there been a transcript or something where I could look back over and say, that's what they just said because I lost it because my brain isn't working. Maybe there are opportunities like that. But I think it's just so important that we're having the conversation around how is it a support and not a distraction.
That's it.
Yeah.
That's exactly the combo.
All right. Well, I want to go ahead and move because we kind of jumped ahead to AI, but I'm glad we did because it's a really profound and an essential conversation. But I want to go back to this whole idea of just the professionalization of coaching as a whole. And I think that's what we've been talking about this entire time, from industry trends to client needs to AI and technology. But we do have just a couple other points. One thing we cannot forget to mention is just the importance of accreditation and aligning with best practices and core competencies in our coaching practice. So very excitingly, going to go back to this one screen. In 2024, or from 2023 to the end of 2024, the number of credentialed coaches with the International Coach Federation went up by about 10%. The number of health and wellness coaches credentialed by the National Board for Health and Wellness Coaching went up 37% in the same time period. So I think this, again, just continues to underscore that health and wellness is the trend that is happening and that we'll expect to continue seeing in the months and years ahead. Alongside of accreditation, and we don't really have slides for this, but two other things that I think are really relevant. So the whole idea of insurance. Can and will coaching be covered by insurance? And then legislation and regulation at either state or federal level. So John, I'm curious if either of those jump out to you that you want to go to first.
Yeah, let's I think they're connected. Those two ideas are definitely connected in the sense that it's really the National Board of Health and Wellness Coaching, the NBHWC, is leading the field in terms of regulating coaching in an official capacity, which is amazing. I think the NBHWC as an organization is helping the field of coaching in ways that is really going to, good things are going to happen when we go down these roads. A couple of things that have happened recently, looking at insurance codes for looking at just measuring coaching is happening. I do not know at what point insurance companies will cover life coaching sessions. I don't see that happening anytime soon, but it's on the table, kind of. I do think that the medical industry itself moving away from an allopathic, like there's a problem that we can identify, and this is this is what we're trying to solve. I don't see that, I don't see moving off of that. But there is awareness around, okay, these are preventative things. This is what coaching can do. This is what, coaching can help in hospitals if it's moving this way. So a lot of coaches are being hired now by hospitals because there's data that shows if healthcare, people who are in the industry, doctors and nurses and staff are using with coaches, better things happen with the patients. If patients are using with using coaches, better things are happening with the patients. So when these studies start happening, when this research is starting being done on an internal basis with hospitals go, look, the return on investment of this is so stark. You have to do it. It's a have to do thing. And it's the NBHWC that is leading the way in the credentialing, in working with hospitals. They're even working with on a tax basis, federal, family savings accounts and health savings accounts, FSA and HSA plans now can cover coaching sessions. You can pay for coaching sessions from those spaces, which essentially means that those coaching sessions are now tax free. That is that now you have some accountant sitting in Connecticut going, all right, here we go, we got this thing going on. When that happens, then all of a sudden now you're going to have some IRS agent saying, all right, like if this is happening, let's really dig into this. What are the standards? What are the fields here? Is this even possible? That's where regulation is going to happen. And so originally I thought regulation was going to happen because the field would grow. It'd be a lot like realtors where you need to have something in place that would go more the ICF route. It will not go that route. If it's going to go in any route, it's going to be the health and wellness route, which aligns almost completely with what we're seeing with the recent growth in the industry. Now you have FSA and HSA accounts being able to pay for coaching sessions. I think it's a viable path. I really do. I think another 10 years of this, and we're going to see some movement in the regulation of coaching from a health coaching standpoint. And if there's going to be any field that's protected from a or state regulation, I do think it's going to be health coaching first. Originally, there's going to be life coaching. It will not. But I think that will also trickle into the other places of coaching. So that's avenue one, right? Avenue two is because we do a lot of work with colleges and universities, about a third to a quarter of our work is directly with schools. I've been talking to a couple of people about what it would look like to, on a state level, say, look, okay, we're working with, 4 universities in this state. This is what academic life coaching can do. There's a new organization, CHEC, a Coaching and Higher Education Consortium that was established by Kathleen Shea Smith out of the University of Oklahoma. The idea that that's establishing standards for academic life coaching. What would it look like to have all of the people who are in education programs, getting their master's in education, have to be trained and certified academic life coaches on a state level? I could also see that happening. And so what I see now is life coaching as a field has very much matured to the space of, okay, now it's time for us to specialize. Now these specializations each have an opportunity to say, this is us, and we want to be regulated on us. We want to be legally protected and regulated in the sense that not everyone can just call themselves an academic life coach unless you've reached these standards. That needs to happen. The fundamentals of the fundamentals just make sense. So when the fundamentals make sense, the question then is, okay, so what's the avenue? How is it going to happen? Who are the players and why is this going to work? I could see one path being through health and wellness coaching, the other path being through academic life coaching. Both seem like very viable paths at this point. But it's not going to happen through the ICF. It's not going to happen through just life coaching in general. It is what it is.
Well, we are very rapidly approaching the top of the hour, and I do want to land us on what does this mean practically for those of you who are coaches or who are considering being coaches? What does it actually look like to use all of this information, use all of this data to get in front of clients and market yourself in 2025? I will add that we should be able to stay after for questions. So we'll probably go right up to the top of the hour with our content. Anyone who has to hop off, we understand. But if there are questions, we're happy to stay and answer those. But John, this is a very holistic conversation, and it just so happened to align. We were not planning to officially roll anything out at this webinar, except the stars aligned, and here we are. So as we talk about how coaches get in front of people and are using all of this information and data to launch their coaching careers, can you go ahead and share the very exciting news about Coach Theory?
Thank you, Brittany. I would love to. Funny you should mention this. This is a project that I've been working on for so long. It's been a thing. I feel like my education in the dev world has grown exponentially over the last couple years. The idea of coach theory came from this idea of what if there was a way to match a coach and a client and have on-demand coaching sessions where you can, it acts like Lyft or Uber, where you go in and say, okay, I want to be, this is my budget, this is the time I have, this is the topic I want to coach on. And then a message gets sent to all of the coaches who are currently online on the platform. And then whichever coach accepts that request first, they get to work with that client. That's the premise behind it. The other premise on a deeper level too is I really wanted to shake up the coaching world and how people even choose the client, choose the coaches they work with, in the sense that I think the traditional way is you go online, you go and you look at a picture of your coach and oh, this coach aligns with me, which is still best practice, still a viable path, sure. But the idea of what if we could establish something that would shake a person's bias of who they think could be the coach for them, and to really match people with coaches, for them to experience like 1 or 2 sessions with something, and to shake up, like, it doesn't matter what your coach looks like, you might really vibe with this coach, and then to make that lead that into scheduled sessions, things like this. This is the premise behind the app. We are at a point now. It is a lot like was it BetterHelp with therapy, but this is coaching based. So we are ready for beta testers. I think, Brittany, we have a link we can drop in chat. If you are interested in being a beta tester on the platform, then sign up. Next week, I'm going to have another webinar with everyone, and we will actively all together enroll you as a coach on the platform, talk through how it works and doesn't work. It is available both on Apple and Android at this point. We are going to keep it in test mode, so it's not going to be, we have dummy credit card numbers that you can put in to get past that point. But I'm thinking this is probably going to go live probably sometime early to mid February. We're looking at launching this thing live for real, and I could not be more excited about it.
I'm going to say a round of applause. I know you all may or may not know, but John has been working on this for years. His passion for this project shines through, and we are just very excited. Like we said, we planned this months ago, and then it just so happened that we got everything finalized and pushed through on the app and the platform side of things in the last couple of weeks. So it's exciting to officially consider this the launch of Coach Theory and share it with so many amazing people. We do have both iPhone and Android, correct, John?
Yep. They both should be operational. There are still going to be bugs. I mean, it's amazing like how many little small decisions have to go into this, and even the whole, how things are going to go. The legal implications of this are also equally challenging, but I think I've navigated those and have a pretty solid understanding of what needs to happen. And we are in very solid territory on this, and the fundamentals are correct. And I hope to even use it myself as a client. So if you get me as a client, don't freak out. Like I will be a very good client. I will be my very best, kindest, just ask me good questions kind of thing. Right. Like this is something I want for me too. So I'm in.
It's amazing. Very, very exciting. I'm going to officially draw us to a conclusion, and just say that there is the link in the app or in the chat. So sorry. If you do want to be a beta tester for the app, fill out that form. We would love to have you. And then if you are new to Coach Training EDU, we have a lot of opportunities. We would love to engage with you. I'm going to drop my email in the chat if anyone wants to chat about coaching. We have this, John, you were just talking this whole idea of coaching to flourish, our podcast. We're looking
I have one more thing to talk. I have one more thing too.
Like
Really
if you
quick.
want to be a practice client and experience coaching on our podcast live, if you want to bring a coaching session that you have a client who's agreed can be used for demonstration or sharing purposes, we are looking to just continue to support coaches across the board, people who are brand new in the industry and those who are well established. So I'm also going to drop that form in the chat. Our team made that up. If you want to be a podcast guest or a demo client, anything like that, please feel free to fill out that form as well.
Yeah.
And then if you're on the look for a coach training program, reach out. We could talk. Our classes are full for January, but we just opened up a February cohort and we're excited to be kicking off the year really strong.